It was a dull, overcast morning in the heart of the city. People moved like shadows on the cracked sidewalks, some rushing to work, others simply existing in silence. But among all of them, there was one girl who walked with a storm inside her. Her name was Alina, though no one seemed to care anymore. Not her parents, who hadn't spoken to her since the argument, not her so-called best friend who betrayed her, not even the teachers, who stopped noticing the deep sadness in her once bright eyes. On this particular morning, Alina stood still. At the edge of the city's oldest overpass, a narrow bridge that looked down on the loud, busy traffic far below. The wind tugged at her hoodie as she stepped closer to the edge, her heart pounding like a drum, echoing her pain. No one ever did, but he did. Jace had just finished his night shift at the local mechanic's garage, his hands still stained with oil, his backpack slung over one shoulder. He wasn't supposed to take this route home. The buses were late, and his phone was dead. Something instinct, fate maybe, something more pulled him down that quiet path. And that's when he saw her. At first she looked like another student just leaning over the rail, but something felt wrong. Very wrong. It was the stillness in her body. The way her knuckles were white as she gripped the edge, the way her eyes stared into the void, as if she was already gone. Without thinking, without hesitation, Jace ran. "Hey!" called out, his voice cracking as he rushed toward her. "Hey! Are you okay?" Alina flinched, startled by the sudden voice. She didn't turn, didn't speak. "Please. Just don't," she whispered, her voice broken. "Don't try to stop me. But Jace didn't listen. He couldn't. He didn't know her name, didn't know what she had gone through. All he knew was that no one deserved to feel this alone. He stepped beside her slowly, carefully, keeping his distance like approaching a bird too scared to fly. "I don't know what happened to you," he said gently, "but I swear to you it can get better." "You don't know anything about me," she snapped, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You're right," he replied, "but I'd like to." That one sentence, a stranger's willingness to listen, not fix, not preach, was the first time in weeks that someone offered her something more than silence. Jace didn't reach for her. He just sat down on the cold cement of the bridge, watching the cars below. "You know what helps me sometimes?" he said. "I come up here to think. The world feels so loud down there, but from here it's quiet, like none of it can touch you." Alina didn't speak, but she slowly stepped away from the edge, still trembling, still not sure what she wanted. But something about this stranger's calm, his quiet strength, started to chip away at the wall she'd built around herself. Who are you?" she asked. "Just a guy," he shrugged. "A guy who hates seeing someone hurting." Jace offered her his hoodie. She refused at first, but he left it on the ground between them anyway. They sat in silence for a long while. When she finally stood to leave, she didn't look back. She never told him her name, and he never asked. But she walked away. Alive, and JC picked up his hoodie and went home, not knowing that what he did had already changed a life. 3 weeks had passed since that gray morning on the overpass. 3 weeks since a complete stranger's words had pulled Alina back from the edge without force, without judgment, without even knowing her name. Every day since, she thought, about him. About how he didn't ask for anything, how he didn't try to fix her, just listened. He had no idea what kind of storm he'd interrupted in her life that day. Alina had since returned to school, quieter than before, but more present. Her teachers noticed. Her mother noticed too, though she was still too absorbed in her own dramas to say anything meaningful. The pain hadn't vanished. It never does, but it no longer consumed her. She began journaling, walking home through new streets, finding moments of peace in places she'd once avoided. But one thought kept echoing. Who was he? Jace. She didn't even know his name then, but she was about to find out. Jace hadn't forgotten either. He often walked by the same overpass again, though he never saw her there. Sometimes he wondered if she was okay. He hadn't meant to become a hero. He was just tired of seeing the world turn its back on people who were screaming silently. He never imagined his small act of kindness would grow into something bigger. And he definitely didn't expect to see her again. But fate had other plans. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Alina had just left her therapist's office, a place she never thought she'd step into voluntarily. Her backpack bounced against her back as she walked into the old neighborhood garage to pick up her father's car, which had broken down again. The inside smelled of grease, old rubber, and metal. She wrinkled her nose and then she froze. There. He was Jace, bent over a car hood, sleeves rolled up, eyes narrowed in concentration, his hair messy, his arms dusted in engine grime, but there was no mistaking him. She stopped breathing for a second. Her heart punched against her chest. Jace wiped his hands and looked up. Sensing someone staring, their eyes met. Recognition flashed in both their faces, but, while his was a gentle surprise, hers was filled with unspoken gratitude. You. She whispered. Jace's eyes widened slightly. I remember you. Alina stepped forward slowly. You saved me. That day on the overpass. He gave a soft nod, carefully setting down his wrench. I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again. I didn't even tell you my name, she said. I didn't need it. Well, I want you to know it now, she said firmly, swallowing. The lump in her throat? It's Alina. Jace gave a small smile. Nice to meet you, Alina. She stepped closer. You saved me without knowing my story. But now I want to tell it. It's not just for me, but because maybe someone like me is still standing on the edge. And right there, in that small garage surrounded by broken down engines and the smell of oil, Alina opened up. She told Jace everything, her pain, her loneliness, how the betrayal from a best friend shattered her trust, how her parents' constant fights made her feel invisible. She told him how she had planned to end it, and how his voice, his presence had pulled her away from the edge when even her own family couldn't. Jace didn't interrupt. He didn't offer solutions. He just sat beside her on the garage bench and listened, just like he had on the bridge. When she finished. Tears clung to her lashes, but they weren't just sad tears. They were healing ones. You don't know how much you did for me that day, she whispered. He looked at her quietly. You walked away on your own. I just reminded you that someone sees you. You didn't just remind me, she said, her voice breaking. You made me feel like I mattered, and that saved me more than anything else. Jace was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. I think I needed to hear that too. They both smiled then. Through the weight of everything they'd shared that night, Alina went home and did something she hadn't done in a long time. She created. She picked up her sketchbook and drew the overpass, Jace sitting beside her. Then she added something else, a caption at the bottom that read, he saved me without knowing my name. But now he'll never forget it. She uploaded the drawing, anonymously, to a local art page. Within hours, it exploded online. Thousands of likes, dozens of comments. People shared their own stories of being saved by strangers, of silent battles, of hope, and among them all, Jace saw the post. He knew it was her. The next time they met, just a week later, she had a small card in her hand. What's this? He asked. It's a thank you, she smiled, but also an invitation. To what? To speak at school. Planning something, a talk. For people who feel like they don't matter, and I want you there. Jace blinked. Me. You don't realize it, but you started something. I want you to be part of where it leads. For the first time. In a long time, Jace felt like he was part of something that mattered. The gymnasium of Eastbridge High was never silent. But today, it was. Rows of students sat in the bleachers, buzzing with curiosity. Teachers leaned against the walls, unsure of what to expect. At the front of the room, there was a makeshift stage with a simple microphone stand, no banners, no flashing lights. Just silence on a purpose. This wasn't an assembly anyone was forced to attend. No mandatory pep rally. No award ceremony. This was something entirely different. Asterisk at the center of it all stood Alina. Asterisk, her palms were sweaty. Her legs trembled beneath her. But her heart was steady. Because today, she wasn't just telling a story. She was reclaiming her voice. And she wasn't alone. Asterisk behind the curtain, Jace stood watching her. He hadn't agreed icily. He wasn't used to crowds or attention. But she had convinced him not with pressure, but with truth. Asterisk, you saved me, she had said. Let's help others save themselves. Asterisk, Alina stepped up to the microphone. Her voice cracked at first, but she cleared her throat. Then, the words came. Asterisk, you don't know me, she began. But you've seen me, in the halls, in the back of the class, walking with my head down. I used to be invisible because I thought I wasn't worth being seen. The room was completely still. I wanted to end my story, before it even began. But someone stopped me. Not with advice, not with pity, just by being there. Yes, by listening, asterisk. A few heads turned. Smiles widened as people began connecting the dots. Asterisk, I was ready to give up, Alina continued, her voice gaining strength. Then a stranger, someone who didn't even know my name, sat beside me. It reminded me I mattered. She paused. And now, I want to do that for someone else. Maybe for you. Asterisk, the audience was silent. Even the air seemed to wait. Asterisk, that's why we're starting something new here at Eastbridge. Safe space. Weekly meetups, no judgment, no lectures. Just people who care. Because sometimes the loudest cries are the ones no one hears. She stepped back slightly, and the person who reminded me of that, he's here too, the gym murmured. Alina looked toward the curtain. Asterisk, Jace. Asterisk, there was a beat of hesitation. Then Jace walked out, hands in his pockets, face flushed, trying not to trip over his own feet. Asterisk, he stepped up beside her, glanced at the sea of faces, then looked at her. Asterisk, hi, he said simply into the mic, earning a few laughs. I'm not really good with speeches, or microphones, or crowds. More laughs, but I know what it feels like to be ignored, to carry pain like it's welded into your bones. I didn't save Alina, she saved herself. No, I just sat beside her. Long enough so she could remember she had something to live for. Asterisk, the silence deepened. A few students wiped away tears. Asterisk, maybe, he added. You're sitting beside someone right now who needs that same reminder. It turned to Alina. And this girl right here, she made sure I'd never forget her name. Not because of what I did for her, but because of what she's now doing for everyone else. Thunderous applause erupted. Teachers clapped. Students stood. Some even shouted her name. Asterisk, Elena. Asterisk, she'd gone from invisible to unforgettable. Asterisk, later that week, the first open circle group met in the school library. Over 20 students showed up. By the second week, there were over 40. Stories poured out. Pain, loss, depression, fear, pressure, confusion, identity. Grief. Asterisk. And through it all, Alina and Jace sat with them. They didn't fix anyone. They just listened. And slowly word spread. A local newspaper covered the movement. The school board approved mental health resources to support the initiative. Parents started attending meetings. Kids who used to suffer in silence finally found their voice. Asterisk, one day, a freshman girl walked up to Alina with tears in her eyes. Asterisk, was going to do something really bad last month, she whispered, her voice shaking. But then I saw your speech online, and I didn't. Alina hugged her tightly. Another life saved, another story rewritten. Asterisk and Jace. Asterisk, he never liked attention. But every time someone walked up and said, thanks man for what you did, he'd just nod and say, she did the hard part. Asterisk, but Alina would always say, he showed me the light. I just decided to walk toward it. Asterisk, eventually they were invited to speak at other schools. Their story traveled far beyond the overpass. Asterisk, and yet through it, Alina never forgot that quiet morning. The one where she almost disappeared. the one where a stranger's voice stopped the storm. Asterisk, she would look at Jace sometimes and say, "Isn't it wild? You didn't even know my name?" Asterisk and Jace would smile and reply, "Yeah, but I'll never forget it now." Asterisk, because sometimes one moment, one voice, one stranger can change everything. The end.